So Jim has been in a series we call Living on Mission, and we basically is trying to back to the basics, trying to learn how to live on mission, live in the life that God has called us to do. And this last week, I've been really just trying to work hard and study hard on trying to find what is it I want to share with you today. And so I went to the place that all of us know we should go. And where is that? Where do we go to find our path and our vision, our mission? Oh, no. I went to YouTube. Is that going to be a problem today? So the Bible was probably a better selection, but I get sometimes lost. So I went to YouTube because, let's be honest, that's where a lot of us spend our time anyway, isn't it? Who spends and watch more than 20 minutes of YouTube a week? Come on. So I'm the only one keeping YouTube in business, I see. Thanks. Okay, well, we're going to talk a little about some YouTube and things that I really like about YouTube, and I've learned about God on YouTube. Now, I know some of you want to leave now. Don't leave yet. Just hear me out, okay? So what I want to talk about is, and I was going to share this story with you. This is just really cool. Can you put a first picture up here? Look at this. See this old man right here, this guy right here? So this truck right here is a 1978 Ford F-250. It's the Lariat. It was the top of the line of the day. It was the work truck of the day. So it was basically the top of the line work truck of the day. Matter of fact, this one was above top of the line because it was designed to actually pull a camper. Matter of fact, let's do the next picture. Show them. Look at that bad boy. It was four-wheel drive. It actually had air conditioning in a work truck. Here, put another next picture maybe. There it is. Isn't that a beautiful truck? Yeah, because it was a barn find. 1978 with 139 miles on it. 0.5. The older gentleman you saw in the picture basically bought the truck, drove it home from the dealership. One day, his daughter, it snowed a bunch, and his daughter needed a ride home, so he drove the four-wheel drive pickup truck to pick her up, drove back, parked it, took a couple more trips over the years to his daughter's house, which was on his property, and he parked it for 42 years. Next picture. Still had the nubby things on the tires. Isn't that insane? Next picture. What's the next one here? There it is. Shined up and ready to go. 42 years parked in a garage, in a barn, protected, sheltered from the elements. It had a thin layer of dust over it. And this guy right here that you see in this is the YouTube video, he basically restores and kind of just refinishes it. But he goes, I'm taking it right back to the original original condition of it was. He didn't do anything crazy to it. And look how it just shined up after 42 years sitting in a barn. Isn't that just amazing? The guys are like, that's cool. I know the women are like, I don't really care about this stupid truck. But this is really cool. It's just really a beautiful vintage work truck. But unfortunately, kind of when I saw this, I was like, what a waste of a truck. Right. The guy spent $8,000, which in that day and age was a lot of money, on a work truck, then never did any work. Right. It sat in a barn. Yep. Not a nick or a ding. I mean, the guy who's refinishing, he's like, there's not even a ding on it. It still had, you could see everything. There's little work things, little bins underneath the back end. Never been even opened for the most part. They were spotless. And I think that sometimes this is and the reason I kind of thought this is about our mission, about God, is this. This is what a lot of us have done with our spiritual lives. We had a moment, we were built for something greater, and we backed it in and parked. We've been sheltering ourselves for 40 years, 5 years, 10 years, you name it. You've been sheltering yourself. You don't want anything to happen to it. But that is not what you were built for. The world takes value. The world, this is going to be a pricey truck. This thing is going to go on auction someday. It's going to be worth a lot of money. 139 original miles on the truck. 0.5. But you know what? The world is going to pay dearly for this because it's shiny. It's authentic. It's kind of like this whole, it's never been dinged. It's never been touched. We don't have to do anything to restore it or anything to refinish it. That's how the world sees things. God, on the other hand, built us to be a work truck. that right? Isn't that what we are? We're work trucks. We were called to be out in the elements, to get dirty, to get into the mud, to get some dings, to show that, the back of this thing never had anything in it. We were called to haul things, people's burdens. We were called to haul people. We were supposed to drive to people and meet them where they're at in the middle of the nowhere, whatever it takes to get to them. That's what we were built for. Not to sit as a barn find 42 years. And so my first question of my day, I always like asking questions as I go through my message. When did you park it? Did you park it? I hope the answer is no. I hope you're no, I'm still rolling strong. I'm going strong. I'm doing great. That's what I hope your answer is. But there's some of us in this room that we parked it. We put it in the barn. We sheltered ourselves. All of our friends go to here. All our friends are Christian friends. All of our people that we talk to are Christian people. All our people that we talk to and we deal with, they're all protecting me. We've been sheltered. We're a barn find. And when I kind of look at this, I just kind of think the world collects this. God doesn't. Matter of fact, the world loves collecting things. Matter of fact, I was in Plainfield yesterday and I drove by a big, huge building. It said Amazon Fulfillment Center. It's a big, big, huge warehouse of stuff collected that we are going to buy. How many people have paid for Prime membership? Come on. $120 some for free shipping. Get the joke? Never quite got that one, huh? Every year, it's auto-renew. We pay it again. Sure, whatever it takes. Free shipping, $120. Okay, makes no sense. So the world collects to find fulfillment. That's what the world does. This is Amazon Fulfillment Center. We live, let's be honest. You order, how much is it now? Holy smokes, that stupid auto-renew. Canceling the thing. But I get free shipping. My gosh, free shipping. And music I don't like. And so when we have this fulfillment center mentality, we're waiting. Let's be honest. Most of us, you order something off Amazon, and you have your Alexa. My Alexa will tell me when it's going to come. And a little ring shows up on my Alexa, and I'm like, oh, yes, it's coming today, it's coming today, it's coming today. And I'm excited because fulfillment's going to happen. I've been waiting for this forever. This will make it all right. And you're excited. If you have one of the little, one of the little camera things on your doorbell, you're watching it. Has it got there yet? Has it got there? Is the ring gone off? And we're excited because we think this is going to bring happiness and joy. Something coming from Amazon Fulfillment Center. And that's where we get stuck. That is not how God works. God does not look for things to be stored and collected, to be delivered to your door in ease. God is a God who wants to go out and plant seeds. God wants us to go out and cultivate people along the way. He's the one that calls us to harvest, not just collect. It means going out and getting in the fields, getting in the dirt, getting in the midst of things. That's what we were called for. That's what we were built for. And so as we kind of go through today, we want to talk about we were built for a purpose. And that purpose is something that we have to kind of figure out because it should come natural to us. But when we were born, it wasn't. Fulfillment came from Amazon. Give me stuff that makes me happy. But at one point in time, you asked Jesus into your life. Those of you guys have done that at this point in your life. You asked Jesus in your life. Something was supposed to change. It was supposed to be transformational. It was supposed to change your whole way of looking at things so that this now, seeking and going for the harvest, becomes your purpose. Because we were built for a purpose. Look at this passage out of 2 Corinthians. It says this. This means anyone who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old way of thinking, the world's way of thinking was supposed to go away. That was eliminated. That was changed. Because the old life is gone, a new life has begun. Verse 18, it's out 2 Corinthians 5. It says this. And all of this is a gift from God. He brought us fulfillment, not Amazon. He gave us the gift, not Amazon. Who brought us back to himself through Christ. And God has given us this task of reconciling people to him. What is our task? Reconciling people. Reconciling people. Bringing them back, restoring them and replenishing them. Restoring them back. Not some truck that's been in a barn for 42 years. But bring up people who have been lost and struggling for 40 years. 14 years. Whatever age they are. That's what God calls. That is our purpose. And there's all those excuses from the old days of why we don't do this should have been eliminated when we became this new person. In the old days, it was all, before you asked Christ for life, it was about making you happy. Make me happy. Fulfill me. Bring me meaning. When we made that decision to follow Christ, we made a choice that we were taking on the new purpose, restoring and reconciling people. And today, that's what I want to talk about. What were you built for? What are some things that hang us up? The next thing we were built for, we were built with power to travel. And you go, what does that mean? That old truck was built with the biggest engine of its day. That old truck was meant to go out. As a matter of fact, it was the Lariat, which I guess was set up to carry big campers. So that truck was supposed to be seen. This is how that camper was. That truck was supposed to be seen. Driving down the road with a big old streamlined silver thing behind it. Big old shiny aluminum silver stream, big old camper behind it. That's what it was designed for, to travel. And it had the power to do it. That thing had the best tow package available of its day. It was a work truck, and it was also meant for pleasure and joy and all those kind of things as well. It had the power. We as Christians are called to travel. And it might be traveling to your next door neighbor's house. It might mean traveling to your workplace. It might be traveling to the group that your kids are involved in and getting to know their parents. It might be traveling out of this country. We were called to travel. The cool thing is, we were built with the power to do it. And it doesn't come from us. The power we got comes from the Holy Spirit. Look at this passage out of, Acts 1:8 says this. But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you, and you will be my witnesses, telling people about me everywhere. Who's speaking? Jesus. This is it. In Jerusalem, throughout Judea, and in Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. Personal, local, and far. You have the power to do it. So what I'm just trying to get across today is this. We got to start changing our way of looking at things. Missionaries are not people who you pay to go do your work. You are the missionaries. Mission fields are not always in Africa, Mexico. Sometimes they're in Whiteland, Southport. Those are the mission fields. And then before you disqualify yourself, you have been filled, those of you who have asked Jesus in your life, you have been filled with the Spirit who gives you the power to do what you're built to do. If that big old truck had a little tiny Prius engine in it, it would not be a good deal, would it? It was built with the power to pull, the power to travel, and to bring other people along. He was built to, I didn't hear that one, I'm sure. Okay, so here's this. Why are you called to travel? Why is it important that you travel? And this is it, because really, we get caught up in this. Some of us have sheltered ourselves into our own little world, our own little barn of society, and we're afraid to tiptoe outside of it. But I'm telling you today, you were called to travel and meet people who are different than you, to meet people who are struggling, to meet people, and we're going to talk further as we go on in this message about people who are stuck. It's your calling. It's what you were built for. And why do we do it? Listen to this passage. This is just really powerful. This is Romans 10, starting in verse 13. Listen to this. This is written crazy. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. There's a promise. If you call on the name of the Lord, you'll be saved. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. Think about that. We think, God will take care of it. God will figure it out. Or those people at that church, Jim Teller, he'll figure it out. He'll figure out how to reach those people in my neighborhood. He'll figure that out. That's not how the plan was set up. That's not what you were built for. The system was built for you to be the one that reaches them. Yes, God can reach them. That's why he put you next door to them. That's why he put you at the desk next to them. That's why he gave you those grandchildren. That's why he gave you that new member to your family, that brother-in-law, sister-in-law that's just moved in to the family. That's why. You were sent. It's built. You were built for this. You were sent to reach those people. Because if you don't do it, there's a chance they don't get back to that first phrase. Listen, let me read the first phrase again. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. But how will they know? They will know because you have been sent to share it with them. We have been sent to share this with our neighbors and our friends and our family and the world. But we got to be willing to travel. We got to know we have the power. We have to know our purpose. Our purpose was to be sent. His purpose was to go and travel and do things. I can already hear in your minds, it's not easy. And I know that. It's challenging. It's scary. But guess what? You were built to overcome roadblocks of rejection. You were built to do it. Listen to this. This is out of 2 Timothy 4:22, verses 2 through 5. Listen to this. Challenge, warn, and urge your people. Don't ever quit. Just keep it simple. Now, this I think is very important we talk about this part. The reason a lot of us don't want to share our faith with other people is because we have this built-up anxiety that I have to know everything, that I have to be able to say this eloquently. I can't even say the word. I have to be able to say it perfectly because I don't want to mess up. And so this is where a lot of us, we just stop here because we try making things more complicated than what they really are. You are not perfect. Just keep it simple. When you're going out, you know what it is? It's talking to people. It's relationships. And we're going to talk more and more about that because that is just so important here. But just keep it simple. Don't disqualify yourself from being an evangelist because you're afraid it might get complicated. The Bible right here says, just keep it simple. Keep it simple. We're going to talk about what that means here as we keep going. You're going to find that there will be times when people will have no stomach for solid teaching, but will fill up on spiritual junk food, catchy opinions that tickle their fancy. They'll turn their backs on the truth and chase mirages. But you, keep your eye on what you're doing. Accept the hard times along with the good. Keep the message alive. In other translations, it actually uses the word evangelism. Keep evangelizing. Keep the evangelism going. Do a thorough job as God's servant. We're not called to get bogged down. There's going to be tough times. But some of the coolest, simple things you can do is when you face those tough times, how do you respond? That's one of the biggest witnesses that we have to share the faith with other people. When you hit your snags in life, how do you respond? Do you go back into the barn? Back in? I'll come out when things are safe. It's never going to be safe. Never going to be easy. During those moments of struggle and those times of trouble, those are the moments that God says, hey, hang tough. Be with me. I'm there with you. In this moment, we can make actually a big difference, not only in your life, but in the lives of those people around you. This is your witness. This is the message I want you to carry to people. Things are going to be tough. They're going to be tough. But in the midst of this, don't talk about yourself. Don't talk about how I overcome. No, you didn't. God did. And during those tough times, you direct it back to God. And during the good times, you know what you're supposed to do? Direct it back to God again. Because in the good times, you should be acknowledging that you didn't do that either. You were blessed. Somebody else may have played a role, and you need to go bless them. You need to bless someone else. You need to do what it takes to be a part of their lives. This is what we were built for, not roadblocks. We can overcome roadblocks. Roadblocks become stepping stones in God's kingdom. That is how we're supposed to see it. Now, I told you I'd share you a little bit more about my YouTube adventures, and so the first one I wanted to share with you was my truck. The truck I found that was on a website or in a YouTube video from a company called Ammo, and they restore vehicles. It's kind of fun watching them just take these old beaters and just what they do to them. The next one I want to tell you about is kind of one of the ones I do spend a lot of time watching, and it's called Matt's Off-Road Recovery. Now, Matt's Off-Road Recovery is out in Utah, and basically they recover people who get stuck, people like me who go there, rent a car in Utah, and think that my Toyota Corolla can go through the desert of Utah. And so he makes his living bailing out tourists and people who go a little off-road and take cars that are ill-equipped for it, and they take it back into these roads and they get stuck up to the axles. It's just funny to watch. And it's not only just those people, it's also adventurous people who maybe go a little too far and are a little too adventurous. They step outside and they go into something that they just really weren't prepared for. They didn't have the knowledge to know really what was there. They're kind of, they got the big, huge Jeeps and they're all jacked up and they got their whole big, they're ready to go. I can go through anything. And they find out, no, you can't. And they get stuck. And then a lot of times they have to hike their way out to find a phone service because they're way so far back in. And some of these people, I've watched them, some of these things, they'll be on the edges like this. And you're like, oh my gosh, wow, did you get there? At what point did you not go, maybe we should stop? But let's be honest. That's very like a lot of people's walk to God. You were wandering and you were going, you were adventure junkie, you were trying all kinds of new stuff, and you were running down the road, and you were going, and before you knew it, you were stuck up to the axles. And you're like, how'd I get here? I'll tell you, back that way, look, you're crazy. What were you thinking? But at the time, it looked adventurous. It looked like fun. And so Matt's road recovery, off-road recovery, they recover people who have gone off-road. They recover people who have got so far off track and off place that other tow companies won't even venture to go there because they don't have the equipment. Now, the other cool thing with this Matt's off-road recovery, he drives basically this old kind of beat-up Jeep Cherokee. I owned one of them. Mine was green. His is bright yellow. And he has this other one he's kind of converted. His vehicles are kind of like this hodgepodge of multiple vehicles. Like, it's got the axle of a Dodge. It's got this, and it's just all crazy. He basically welded them together in the back shop. And he goes back there and he builds these things because they're equipped. He builds them to be sturdy enough to go back into these areas. And they do break, and he'll laugh. Okay, we got to fix that now. And they got to tow their own truck out to go get another truck to brag in. It's just kind of fun to watch. And it's actually very clean and wholesome. So it's kind of fun. So here's the thing. Many of us were equipped with the ability to do things. Now, we're not pretty and pristine like the first truck we talked about. But you have been, through the scars of life, you have been equipped to be the one who's designed to go into the off-road backcountry to get certain people that I can't get to. And that is where God has made each one of us very individual. Our stories are all different. No two, Jim shared. Our stories are different like snowflakes. It's different. Your story can reach somebody. What you look like can reach people more than me. Your gender, you tame it. God designed you specifically for the purpose of reaching certain people that have got off-road and stuck. There's one story of a guy actually who is an older gentleman. He basically got stuck in Matt's off-road recovery, and they basically travel with a whole group. He'll bring the Jeep, and they got another guy with another type of Jeep, and they basically kind of triangulate and use winches to pull people out of these things, and it's just pretty fun to watch. But there's this one older man. He got stuck up to his axles in this big old pickup truck with a cab on the back, and he shouldn't have been back there. It was a nice car, but he shouldn't have been back where he was at. They get him unstuck, and this guy goes, they go, hey, do you want to follow us? I go, no, I know where I'm going. I will get myself out. They go home the next day, and the family starts calling them the next day going, hey, did you ever get them out of there? And they're like, an older couple, no real food and drinks with them, no real anything with them, out in the elements. And it gets cold out there. I mean, it gets way freezing out there. And they're panicking. And they went off, and they drove back out back into this backcountry area where they'd last seen him. And remember the guy pointed, oh, no, I know which way. And they followed the direction the guy had pointed, and they found him there, stuck sideways across the road because he tried turning around because he got lost. Him and his older wife were there, and they were just so grateful to see him. And so sometimes we know what? We have to recover people more than once. It's not a one-shot deal. It's not, hey, I saved you once. You've got to figure it out the next time. Next time, I'm not helping you again. We sometimes have family members and people we know that we've had to help several times. But that's what we were built for. We were built for going out and saving and recovering lost people who are stuck. And this is addictions. This is things in life that have just overwhelmed them. This is people losing jobs and they got stuck and they're belly up in their finances. We are built to recover those people. Yes, they got themselves into the mess themselves, a lot of them. We know that. But if you look back in your own personal life, there's some messes you got yourself into. Right? And so we're still called to go reach them, even though they're getting what they deserve. This is just, this is what they deserve. God said, you know what, that is not my mentality. We're called to recover people. It's in our purpose. The next show I always liked watching, this one's a little bit more, I apologize, maybe a little more gruesome for some of you. It's called Adventures with Purpose. Adventures with Purpose was basically a group of guys that were out there, they're scuba divers, and they were cleaning up, as in Oregon, so they're very nature people and trying to clean up the environment. And they were basically cleaning out canals and stuff and bring up the trash, and they're just showing all the stuff fine. And they were on video, and they're getting some followers on their YouTube channel. And then they start moving into maybe getting cars in areas where people had been dumping cars into the rivers, basically stolen cars. And they were basically started recovering them, mostly just because they were trying to keep all the stuff from leaching into the rivers and protect the rivers. And so they would find these places, and they would pull out 5, 6, 7 cars and call the police, and the police would, oh, yeah, that was stolen. That one was stolen, too. That was an insurance job, Just all this stuff had been dumped, and they were cleaning out the rivers. And they were getting really good at it and getting known on the internet for being able to do this. A family basically had lost their 22-year-old son, and somehow he ended up in the bottom of a river. The local authorities in that area were not equipped or trained to go to the depths that they needed to go to in these currents. Well, the guys at Adventures with Purpose, they were like, we do that all the time. And so they drove up hours, they traveled to this place, and they found this car, and they bought airbags, and they lifted it up and brought it to shore so the family could recover the body. They shot it on video. They put it on YouTube. And guess what? People started calling. Hey, we have a loved one. We think they're in that pond. We think they went off the road there. We don't know where they're at. And so Adventures with Purpose basically travels, and started in 2019. They basically started gaining a little momentum on this, and they basically went out and bought an old camper. They bought some better equipment, and they now travel the country looking for people's lost loved ones. Sometimes they find them, sometimes they don't. The ones that they don't find, they go, yeah, I can tell you where they're not at. And that helps the families. Hey, you always thought they were in that creek, that pond, whatever. They're not in there. I can tell you that now. So we can focus our search somewhere else. But since 2019, they have found 19 bodies for people and families. Isn't that amazing? What did they start with? They started with some small skills in doing something small. They had at least the equipment to do the small things. As they gained experience and understanding of how to do things, they bought better equipment. They were further equipped. They traveled farther to do their craft. They made a bigger impact. They basically make a living recovering the lost bodies of people. What if we could take the same mentality and know that we have been equipped, we've been trained, and we have God-given skills to do the recovery of people who are the living lost? They're lost. They're alive. They're out there. They're on the streets, but they're lost, just like those people. Their loved ones care dearly about them. Their loved ones want to bring them back. Their loved ones want to just know what happened. And we have no people like this, the living lost. Some of you are family members of people that are living lost. And you wish somebody would come along and help you bring them and find them and bring them back up so that you can at least know what's happening, so you can at least be a part of what's going on. We get the advantage of doing this before death, where we can make a real difference. A lot of the people that actually lost are people who committed suicide. They didn't want to be a burden on their family, or some traumatic event happened, and they drove off. Some of them were just pure accidents. There's one where a couple, they'd been missing a family for like 12 years. There's a woman and her child, I believe, and it was her birthday, and she had went off the road, and they couldn't find, they didn't know where she went off the road. They just had no clue, and they had some ideas to track down her path, her old path, and this is what sometimes we have to do in life. Even we have to track somebody's path and find out where did they go off the road, where did things go bad, and they found this place as a bridge, and they'd built a new guardrail since. But back when she went off, there was no guardrail, and she went off, and they found her car there in shambles at the bottom. They brought closure. I don't know if it was really closure. They answered questions. What if we could be a church known for recovering people who are stuck, and a church known for recovering the living lost? What if we could become a church and a body of believers that's what our goal was, truly to do each week, to recover the lost? We would make such an impact, it would blow away the south side of Indianapolis. These YouTube channels, they have millions of subscribers. People watch it weekly to watch them recovering cars and bodies. What would happen if we could use YouTube and use our lives and our personal lives and all this stuff to recover living lost people? It would blow up everything. Or do we get barn finds? 42 years later, they're going to go, yeah, that was a cool church. I don't know what happened to them. We were built for a purpose. Now, I know some of the things that creep in with when I hear some of this stuff, and I know it's easier said than done. But I want to kind of bring this close home. There's some things that many of us, when we kind of look at life, there's some ways to do this more effectively. And one of the things I want to point out is this. People are searching for two things: acceptance and purpose. This is our strategy. See, most of us are looking for those two things. It's normally in that order, too. They're looking to be accepted before they're going to listen to what you say to find out about your purpose for them and God's purpose for them. And that's where this gets tough. It's relationships first, then it's the conversation sometimes. Yes, there are evangelists who can walk into the stadium and preach the word of God, and thousands of people come forward. But there's more to than just coming forward. There's being discipled. And that is a slower process. But if we could become a church that's known for seeking and saving the lost, that's what we were built for, we can make some great things happen. Now, this bonding, this acceptance thing is the tough part. We all want it. I mean, and if you think you're above wanting to feel accepted, I'll tell you you're wrong. How many guys are motorcycle riders? Come over to my father, yeah. What do you do every time you pass another motorcycle? Two little fingers go out to the side like you're all... You know what that is? That's man bonding. Me and you, we're the same, man. We're a part of the same. That's me feeling accepted by... If somebody doesn't do that, you're like, hey, that jerk, what are they doing? Just put their little fingers out like, yeah, we're the same, man. We're all in this together. And it's a bonding. It's just a stupid little bonding. It's so funny because you're thinking, like, one guy's like an accountant, the other guy stabbed somebody last night, and you're like, they're buddies, they're friends. They're cool because they can do the little wave thing. Jeep people are the same way in the Wranglers. It's this, it's two, it's three fingers. When you're in a Jeep, it's like this. How you doing? Yeah, we're cool. We're part of the same. We're all looking for acceptance in some weird form or shape or form, We're all doing it. We want to feel accepted. We want to feel something bigger and better. And this drive for acceptance is basically something that we get sometimes lost in, though, when we get to the church building. Because when we come and we start talking about God and we start talking about this stuff, sometimes we exclude people inadvertently, and we exclude people from seeing who God wants, seeing what God's about. We're sometimes the biggest distractors of those people. Let me show you. This is kind of a hard one for me to even share. This is one of my former students commenting on another former student's Facebook page. It says this: I left, quote, the church long ago after I really caught on to how much talk there is in acceptance versus how few are actually accepted. It was a proud moment for a youth pastor, huh? But what draws us in is the acceptance. Was he against God? Doesn't say that. Doesn't say he's against anything else about it. He's not caring about the Trinity. He doesn't care about if you're reformed or not reformed. He doesn't care about any of that stuff. What he sees is acceptance. As a church, as a body of believers, how do we deal with people? Many of us, we're barn finds and we're sitting back waiting. I'm protected. I'm not going to let any of those people near me. I'm not going to do any of that. Versus being in the middle of it and going, sometimes I have to accept people where they are, even though they might be dirty and dingy and off the rockers and in bad shape. I'm called to reach those people. I'm built for it. And I want to kind of give you an illustration, and this is kind of let me share this one first. When we kind of leave this whole thing, we go, well, why is it important that these people get reached? I mean, why do they really want acceptance? And it's because they are lacking that, because the purpose, the meaning for them is also to be in relationship with God. That is what brings them purpose and meaning also. They just don't know it yet. Because remember we said earlier, who's going to tell them unless we're sent to tell them? Well, that's what we're there for. We're sent to tell them. But some people really don't know. Or their experience with the church was bad. And some of you have been in some bad churches where the acceptance level was 0. You look like this, you do this, or you're out of here. You grew up in it. You had some grandma said, you're not dressing like that when you go to church. You need to go change. And they're like, this is all I got. Am I supposed to go buy an outfit to go to your church? See, that's the kind of stuff that we don't even realize is happening, but we do it all the time. We set up boundaries and stuff. But God is different. Here's God's plan. This is this. It goes, next passage. Read it off your screen here. Is it on there? Maybe it's not on there. I'm on my own. I'm perfect. I can go whatever, say whatever I want. God's desire is to restore others is the same as it was to restore you. Many of you enjoy the blessings of God. He met you where you were at. You say, well, I was a good kid. You were still just a sinner. You were just still as lost. You were still just not as saved. He reached you where you're at. Let's move on here real quick. Next passage. The Lord is not slow in keeping his promise, as some understand slowness. Instead, he is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. He's patient. He's patient with other people. We're called to be patient with him, or with others too. That's our calling. Move on here. It goes this. We get discouraged, but we forget we were built for this. Let me see this one I really want to talk to you guys about. This is a fun one. I want to tell you about Daryl Davis. Daryl Davis, found this on YouTube also. You can put his picture up there. This is Daryl Davis. He's an African-American man. And on the couch are the robes of Klansmen. Daryl Davis, at the age of 10, was basically harassed, and he was walking in a parade. He was on a mostly white team of, I can't remember, they were walking a parade. They'd won some tournament. You know, like when little kids, they get to walk in the parade. People were throwing rocks at him. He was the only African-American kid on the team. And then all the white kids surrounded him to try to protect him, and they got out of there. And he went home, and he told his dad, he goes, why do these people who don't even know me hate me? That was at age 10. As he grew older, he was basically, he's a jazz musician. And he went to New Orleans and Louisiana and stuff like that. He was from Chicago, I believe. And basically, he found himself playing in a country bar one night. And some guy goes up, he goes, man, you're the best player I've ever seen since such and such, Jerry Lewis. He goes, well, I know him. He goes, matter of fact, he learned from a bunch of Afro-American blues players how to play what he does. And that guy, they built a relationship with that guy, and that guy was a Klansman. The Klan, basically, and so he kind of connected with the guy. He then went out and he said he wanted to kind of write a story about the Klan. And so he had his white secretary call the leader of the Grand Dragons, the wizard of the KKK at the time, and basically had set up an interview. He said he was going to do a story on the Klan. And he shows up, and he's offered, obviously, a big African-American man, right? And here he's sitting with this wizard, grand wizard, whatever they're called. Dragon, okay? And he basically just builds a relationship with the guy. He basically, as time went on, the guy basically gave him his robe and said he walked away from it. Listen to Daryl Davis's way of looking at things. This is out of a book. This is Daryl Davis. This is out of an article out of CNN. He goes, basically, they didn't give up those robes, not because he demanded it, cajoled, or threatened them, but he says because they learned from him. They're done, he says, of the men who have given up their robes they used to wear so proudly. As a result of meeting me and having these conversations, not overnight, but over time, 26 Klansmen have given him their robes. An African-American man reaching out to people who hated him. I don't know if he's a Christian, but he had the guts to go after those who hated him. We are called and built to do the same. We are built to basically go out and to try to change people with the broken hearts and the people who hate us. There's a battle going on for the people in this world, and we're called to go out after them. Even if it means sitting with, conversing with, and building relationships with people who hate us. Matter of fact, look at the next line. But for change to happen, Davis believes you have to recognize the similarities even with people who hate you. You have been called and built to go and reach people, and you have to find, instead of pointing out all their faults right at the beginning, we're called to find similarities and build relationships. The woman at the well with Jesus, what did he use as a transition statement? Hey, got some water? We all need water. He used the one thing that he knew everybody needed, water. Created the conversation. What is it that you have in your life that you could do and that you're special about you, the skill that you have, that you've been equipped to do, that you can build a relationship with somebody to have this kind of a life-changing moment? And we're not just sharing color and stuff. We're sharing the good news of Christ. We're sharing something far greater than what anyone else, any other topic out there. We should be more excited. We should be more devoted to it than Daryl Davis is even. This is what it's about. The Bible says this. It says, Jesus looked at him hard in the eye and loved him. He said, there's one thing left. Sorry, I've jumped ahead. Now let's move on. Okay, let's do this one. We're running out of time. Next one's this. You ready for this? I always warn them in the back. It takes time to change obsessions for our possessions and our pleasures. Another thing we have to learn is we have to take time with people. Jesus is meeting with a rich man, a rich young man, and basically this guy has all the bunch of money, and he's basically trying to figure out, the guy goes, how do I get to heaven? He's right, how do I find purpose? What's the bigger meaning in life? What's the bigger thing? And so Jesus is flat out and shares with him, just straight, very forward. And Jesus looked him hard in the eye and loved him. He said, there's one thing left. This is a rich man. Go sell whatever you own and give it to the poor. All your wealth will then be heavenly wealth. And come follow me. Now, he's rich. That's a big thing. That is not easy to give up. Sometimes when we walk into people's lives, we're telling them, give up. You got to stop doing that. You got to stop doing this. You need to change this. You got to stop. And we talk about all this stuff they have to change. And when they don't change at all, we are bummed out. Well, they're never going to make it. Sometimes people have the choice, and they make a choice not to follow. Matter of fact, the pastor goes on, says, the man's face clouded over. This was the last thing he expected to hear, and he walked off with a heavy heart. He was holding on tight to a lot of things and not about to let go. Changing people's perceptions on their obsession for pleasure and possessions is hard to do. And let me be honest. This is Jesus doing this, and he got denied. And we get frustrated when one person says, oh, I don't know if I like that church. And we're, oh my gosh, and we blow them up. This guy looked in Jesus in the face and goes, nope, not going to do that, and walks away. You're going to face rejection. It's going to take time again for people to change and give up certain things. That's just the reality. I'm just trying to give you some realities of being an evangelist. The last one, this, and we'll be done. It takes time to resolve doubt. Many of you, it's your role in this whole evangelistic thing is maybe just to help one person resolve one issue that keeps them from following Christ. And then the next person is going to help them resolve another issue. Some of us, it took years for us to finally fully commit. Oh, yeah, we went to church. Yes, we went to church because that's what mom and dad made us do, like my kids. But at some point in time, you had to figure it out for yourself. Is this really my decision? And you had to make that decision. It takes time to resolve doubt. And so here it says this. This is in the Bible. It says in Matthew 28, it says this. Meanwhile, the 11 disciples were on their way to Galilee, headed for the mountain Jesus had set for their reunion. The moment they saw him, they worshiped him. Some, though, held back, not sure about worship, about risking themselves totally. The NIV says that some doubted. Now, let me refresh your memory when this is happening. This is the resurrected Jesus that they've already seen. This isn't 2,000 years ago like us. This is people that were there at the time when things were happening, when they heard what people he had healed. They saw him crucified on a cross and put in a tomb for 3 days. And now he's talking to them And still some people doubted. And we are turned off because not all of our friends have become saved. We're turned off because we've been trying. It's okay. Keep it simple. It's a long journey to build the relationships to get to the point where you can share the purpose and the meaning of life with them. This is Jesus, a resurrected Jesus, and they still had doubts. Don't think that it's going to be any different. We're just going to quit there. I think I'm out of time, aren't I? I'm over time, aren't I? I apologize. Today, our whole goal is this, to keep it simple. Build relationships with people. You are equipped with it. You have the skills for it. The next thing is timing, and the time is now. It's always now. The timing is always now. It's not wait, because then you become a barn find. It's now. That's when we do it. Who is someone you can call this week to reconnect? It might take 3 months to get them here. It might take you 4 years to have the conversation with them. But who are you starting with today? The timing is now. Who at your work are you going to hang out and talk to after work a little longer because your goal is to reach Christ with them, reach them with Christ, to share Christ with them? Who's it going to be? If we leave here and we do nothing, we become a barn find again. We park it and we sit and we wait, oh, next time when it's clear skies, I'll bring it out. It's never going to be clear skies. Matter of fact, sometimes when the clouds is cloudiest and people are stuck and lost, they're more open. That's when to reach them. When you're going those moments, how you talk about those are opportunities when you're struggling and you share with someone else how you're handling it. Those are moments. That's timing. The time is now. Let's be known as a church who is out recovering people who are stuck and the living lost. That can make a difference. But it happens as individuals and builds into a movement as a church, not the other way around. It starts as individuals. Who are you going to reach today? Who are you going to reach? Let me close in prayer. God, I thank you so much for just everything you've done in our lives, God. We are blessed people. God, I pray that you will help us to just get out of the barn, to know what we were built for, to know that there is a purpose, God. And God, I just thank you so much for being a God who met me where I was at when I was stuck. And you sent people around me. You sent multiple people to help me get unstuck. And I'm so appreciative of those people. God, may our lives be drawn to do the same for others. Amen. Keep it simple. Thanks, guys.